Okay, this is a quick and dirty way to produce a plan view or two-dimensional map of a planar surface in an image. We're going to use GIMP. And we have this image here. First thing, we'd like the image to be a little more distinct, so all I'm doing is changing basically the contrast. This is kind of an ugly result, but I think this will be easier to work with. I'm not going to do anything like sharpen or make any other adjustments for fear of losing any accuracy. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to orient the picture. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit rotate on the toolbox, and we're going to rotate the image about this line next to this little dark spot. So what I can do is I can take the edge of my picture up there and kick it around here until I get one edge of this grid one edge of this grid square with the borders of my image. Now one way we can look at this is to zoom in and find that edge, and we can move across the picture. We can see, well, on the left over here we are 2315, and over here on the right we're 2317, so that's 2 pixels across the width of the image. I think that's pretty square with the world. You can see that edge dips a little bit in the middle and is a little bit higher at the 2 ends. That's actually because of lens distortion. There's a way to fix that, but you'd have to calibrate the camera lens. So I'm going to rotate this. So now I have an image that has an edge that's square with the bottom of my picture. We can zoom out here a little bit. It looks a little funny, but at this point we're going to crop it. This concrete has a grid pattern which is 36 inches on center, so I want to preserve that grid pattern by making sure that my crop keeps all of the corners which we're going to use to orient the picture. Once I've selected that, I can crop it to that selection. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make this image square. So I can come up here to Tools and Transform Tools. There's a tool here which is called Perspective, and we can use this to correct the perspective in the picture. And how this works is we can just drag the corners around. So for instance, this corner, I can move it. This dotted line that you see here is the edge of the original picture, so what I'm trying to do is get this corner parallel to that edge. We can also move this corner over until it's parallel. So I've sort of got the top and the 2 sides roughly square with the world at this point. I can transform it to that picture, and then what we're going to do here is zoom in 100% and and see if we can get it a little bit better. So here on the left hand side you can see that I have a small gap. Oops, we're actually, it's best if I start at the bottom. So 43 pixels over from the edge of the image is my left hand edge of this grout, about 43. And so I can come up here to the top and I can see that it's closer, about 25. So what I need to do is come back to Tools, Transform Tools, Perspective. We're going to get this to be out to about 47 roughly. Well, maybe 45. That's 47. And so now that left hand edge is pretty even with my picture. We can do the same thing with the top. If I point to this top edge of the upper grout line, I can see that that is at 27 pixels down here in this little window down here in the bottom corner. We can see what pixel we're at. So that's an XY coordinate. The X coordinate is actually the second. I guess that's the Y. Up and down is a Y coordinate, so that's the second one. So I look at the second, I have 47. Well, let's go to we'll use the top edge of the upper grout line. I'm about 25. If I come over to the opposite corner here, I can see I'm about 23. That's pretty good. Let's see if we can make it 25. Oops. 25. Okay. We can do the same thing with the vertical line at the left edge. Down here at the bottom right, I have the right hand edge of the grout line. Appears to be about 2136. So I can come up here to the top and I have 2136. So it looks pretty square. We'll transform it. Once again, if you look at that top edge, things are a little wiggly. There's a little bit of an arch to it towards the center of the image, but we have some distortion due to the lens here. Of course, the perspective of three-dimensional objects now is incorrect, but we've produced basically a map of this scene. And anything that's in the plane that we're looking at should be reasonably true to that plane. So objects that are not in the plane, like the tops of the block and this fat disk, the tops of those are not in the plane of the surface, so there'll be some error there, and we won't look at that. So we're going to save this. Oops, we want to save it as a JPEG, so I have to export. And I'm just going to call this 15 so I keep track of what it is. And at that point we're finished with GIMP. Next we can load that picture into my CAD program, and we can see it's pretty darn big there. The grout lines are 36 inches on center in both directions, so we can see my grout lines are rectangular now, so we're going to have to correct that so we get a nice square picture. To do that, what I'm going to do is draw pictures. I'm going to draw lines along the edges. So I'm going to start here at the upper left grout corner. At this corner I'm going to hit also the upper left grout corner. And up here, upper left grout corner. And upper left grout corner. Go where I want you to go. And complete the pattern. So as far as this picture goes, I have a line now on the left hand side of each grout line and also on the top of each grout line. Now this is not going to be perfectly square, so what I want to do is create a perfectly square vertical and horizontal box. So I'm going to start a new layer here. Let's call it grid. And what I'm going to do is draw a horizontal line from the center of that edge and also from the center of that edge. And then we're going to draw a vertical line on this center and this center. Let's change the color of this so we can see what it looks like. This one I seem to have got wrong. Okay, so we need to delete that one. And vertical line, perpendicular. Where is center? Center should be right about there, middle. Okay. So I have these four little lines. Now what we want to do is find the intersections of those lines. And I have a box that is the average. Since it's at the center of each edge, it's at the average distance from center of the pattern. I have horizontal lines and I have vertical lines and I have 90-degree corners. Now, each edge should be 36 inches. So what I'm going to do is we're going to, what did I just do? Oh. Okay, so dimension vertical, not horizontal. That was dumb. So I see that this is now 1,546.0544. I'm going to select everything and we're going to scale it. About this corner of the image. And we want it to be 36 inches, so we're going to 1,546.0544. So this will shrink my picture down until that vertical edge is 36 units, in this case inches. Okay, I'm finished with that. Now, since the image isn't square, I need to shrink it in the opposite direction as well. So I'll find what this dimension is. It's 48 inches. So once again, I'll select all. We'll modify and scale about this corner again. Now, in this case, I only want to scale in the X direction, so I'll delink the X and Y scales and just scale the X direction. And there we go. Well, you can't see it. It's 36. So now I have a perfect square of 36 inches. I don't need these lines anymore, so I can delete those. Now, if I was to plot out the locations of things, it would be nice to have a grid. So I'm going to select parallel. I'm going to draw a line parallel with distance. I'm going to make that distance 4. So I'll have a 4-inch grid. And I can just draw all these lines. And okay, now I have a grid here, which is dimensions of 4 units, in this case inches. So I have a 4-inch grid, and this is basically now a map of my scene. I could simply print this out. We could also get coordinates of any point, but what's most useful here is to get dimensions. So let's see how we did. This is a 12-inch ruler, so if I find the dimension from one end of that ruler, I'm going to create another layer here. That's a different color. I think I'll pick blue. Okay, so I can pick that point, and we can zoom out here, and it says, it doesn't show up very well, but 11.96. So to 3 significant figures, I have a 12-inch ruler. This little plate down here is 2 inches by 3.4 inches. So if we measure this edge, this should be 2 inches. I got 1.95 inches, so 0.5% error in that measurement. I can pick, these two corners are sharper, so I'll work with this edge. I can pick that corner, and I can pick where I think that corner is, about there. And it says that it should be 3.4 inches, and I got 3.38, so that's pretty close. Let's get this stuff smaller. I could make this something. Let's make it yellow and see if it looks better. Okay, that looks better. So 1.95 should be 2 inches. 3.38 should be 3.4 inches. This cube, I forget which way I set it down, but it's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. By 1.75 inches. So this should be 1.5 inches. I've got 4.56. That's not too bad. It's kind of hard sometimes to pick out exactly where the corner is. For instance, this one's pretty fuzzy. That's a little hard to tell. But 1.68, so that should be 1.75 inches. I got 1.68. That's a little more error, but like I say, finding that corner is kind of guesswork. Over here I have a 3-inch, not 3-inch, 3.5 inch diameter. Now we don't want to measure the top surface because it'll be a little bit out of scale, perhaps not round. So I'm going to draw a circle with 3 points. So I'm going to pick 3 points along the edge. Actually, I think up here is a good point. We can still get that. We can get a point in here someplace, and we can do this until it lines up pretty close to the edge. Let's see how we did with this. Diameter, this says it's 3.71. It's actually 3.5 inches, but again, I think the main problem is just locating the points in the picture with fuzziness and so forth. If you wanted to, you could create a 1-inch grid. Let's make it green. By drawing a line parallel with distance, just put 1 inch in here. All we'd have to do is put all the 1-inch grid marks in. You see, this is pretty easy to do. We could fill out the whole picture with a 1-inch grid, which might make it easier to plot things if you were making a map of this. Anyway, maybe that will be of use to somebody. Take care.